Good day, everybody. We are discussing about the discovery, the properties, and the nature of the viruses. Viruses. Discovery. Discovery. So it was the Adolf Meyer in the year 1886 who was for the first time demonstrated that tobacco mosaic disease is an infectious disease. Then later on in the year 1892 it was Ivanovsky who scientifically proved that the presence and existence of the viruses and shows that virus particles are filterable. Then in the year 1898 it was the Beezernik, the virologist, who showed that uh, the contagium virum fluidum, that is infectious living infectious fluid living infectious fluid, he was for the first time used the term virus for such a infectious the living particles or the living fluid. The term virus actually is derived from the Latin word, Latin language. In Latin, the venom means what? The poisonous fluid. So, from this, the Latin word, it means that all virus particles are submicroscopic or the smallest entities. They multiply within the host cells and are potentially a pathogenic microscopic organisms under appropriate conditions. So, virus particles are very simple and very smallest known living microscopic organisms. These are very simple. These are very simple and smallest known microscopic organisms. Much smaller than that of the virus, the bacteria, much smaller than that of the bacteria. So bacteria, on the other hand, the prokaryotes. But the virus particles, neither the prokaryotes nor the eukaryotes. These are very simple, ultramicroscopic or submicroscopic entities, much smaller than that of the bacterial cells. Then we can view them, we can observe any of the virus particles only with the help of the electron microscope. It is impossible for us to see them under the light microscope or ordinary table microscope. So these are much smaller, very simple, submicroscopic, and we can view them under electron microscope. Of course, the study of the virus and the branch of microbiology, that is the virology, developed very much only after the discovery of the electron microscope. That is the knowledge of the viruses and the knowledge of the virology actually developed very much, and it is advanced after the discovery of the electron microscope. Then these virus particles are such a interesting living organisms, in the sense that these are totally non-cellular or acellular organisms. They do not exhibit a true cell structure. Any of the virus particle do not covered by a plasma membrane, or nor they do contain any of the cell organelles in them. These are acellular. These are acellular organisms. So such a number of properties of the viruses we had discussed earlier in one of the class. Just I am reminding in order to make them whether they are living organisms or non-living things. So based on these various the properties of the viruses, we can summarize whether they are living or non-living. Means what? We can summarize some of the living properties and some of the non-living properties of the viruses. That is the nature of the viruses. That is the nature of the viruses. So these are cellular, cellular or a non-cellular organisms. They do not contain any cell structure. They do not covered by any cell membrane like that. Then uh, we cannot cultured them. We cannot culture them on any of the artificially prepared nutrient medium like that of the bacteria or any of the prokaryotes. Yes, prokaryotes. So we can't culture them. We can't culture them on any of the synthetic medium. And every virus particle uh, uh, every virus particle multiply or they replicate only inside the host cell. This is one of the very important property of the virus. So when they are present inside the host cell, they become active and then they show the living properties. On the other hand, when they are present outside the living host cell, they remain be present as a non-living things or non-living, just like a chemical compounds, just like a chemical substances. So complete the fully formed virus particles also termed as a virions. 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 Then some of the viruses can also be crystallized, just like a chemical substances. We can crystallize some of the virus particles. So it was the Stanley in the year 1935 who was for the first time crystallized the tobacco mosaic virus, which causes a mosaic disease in tobacco plant. So this is also another property of the virus. Then all virus particles are obligate intracellular parasites. They infect and then cause a disease and are potentially pathogenic in nature. Definitely after their infection, definitely they cause a diseases in plants, animals and other the microscopic organisms. Then they infect to the plants, the animals and any other organisms. They shows uh, this shows that is very specifically they infected to a particular plant and then cells. Particular virus infect to a particular animal, particular plant, again particular tissues, particular cells, like that. Then they are highly specific in their mode of infection. Viruses are highly specific in their mode of infection. Every virus particle, every virus particle, we know that each and every virus particle, it may be the plant virus, animal virus or any other bacterial virus. Every virus particle contain a genetic material which is covered by a outer protective coat known as a capsid. This capsid made up of number of monomeric unit known as capsomers. Capsomers. The arrangement of the capsomers, that is the symmetry of the arrangement of the capsomers determine the shape of the virus particle. So this capsid is a protein coat. Number of protein capsomers usually present in a particular capsid. So the genetic material, maybe it is a DNA or RNA. Again, DNA may be the single stranded DNA or a double stranded DNA. RNA may be the single stranded RNA or a double stranded RNA, like that. So whatever may be the genetic material which is present in a particular the virus particle, always covered by a capsid, that is the outer protective coat. Some of the virus particles still shows at another the outer the covering, that is the envelope. Some of the virus particles along with the outer protective coat, that is the capsid, may also contain envelope. Such a virus particles are also called enveloped virus particles. Enveloped the virus particles. So these virus particles are much smaller, submicroscopic, very simple microscopic organisms, as they contain DNA and then RNA. Whatever the DNA and then RNA which is present inside the core of a capsid constitutes the viral genome. Number of genes, the total genes of a virus are usually present at the center of the capsid, that can be termed as a central inner core of the virus particle. Then every the virus, as they contain DNA and then DNA or RNA as a genetic material, very specifically they infect and then they replicate only inside the host cell. These virus particles, they never multiply, they never increase their number, they never reproduce when they are present outside the host cell. This is one of the very important the property of the virus. Then the virus particles are incapable of any independent cellular metabolism, like that of the any of the cellular organisms, unicellular or any other multicellular organisms. These are nothing but virus particles are uh, incapable of any of the cellular metabolism. Means what? Virus particles never respires, they never synthesize any of the ATP molecules, they do not generate ATP molecules, then they never photosynthesize. Like that, they are incapable of cellular metabolism. Then the virus particles, they reproduce or multiply or replicate inside the host cell in such a way that during their the replication process they undergo the eclipse phase. Means what? The genome of the virus particle disintegrates into its the molecular constituents. Then later on it is this the genome of the virus participate in the process of the synthesis of its own protein molecules, that is the capsids, and own the genetic material or the DNA. Based on all these such a the number of properties of the virus particles, we can summarize uh, non-living properties, non-living non-living properties and living properties, like this. Living properties, that is the nature of the virus, living and then club. Earlier I had murmured that virus particles at a time they express living properties and then non-living properties. Within very few minutes we can again reconsider what are the non-living the properties and what are the living properties of the viruses. So we can list one by one some of the living and then non-living the properties of the viruses. Let me to discuss with all of you about what are the non-living the properties of the viruses. The first, non-living properties. Non-living properties means what? Like all the unicellular microscopic organisms, the virus particles do not contain any true cell structure. These are non-cellular or acellular organisms. This is one of the non-living character. These are acellular or a non-cellular organisms. They do not contain any true cell structure. the virus particles do not covered by the plasma membrane. This is considered to be as an one of the non-living character of the virus particle. Then virus particle lack the machinery cellular machinery cellular machinery cellular machinery. They neither contain the plasma membrane or the cytoplasm or any other cell organelles like that of the unicellular microscopic bacteria or any other microscopic organisms. They lack the true cellular machinery. Means what? They only contain the genetic material which is covered by a capsid, which is covered by a outer protective the covering, that is the capsid, made up of a number of capsomers. So this is at another the non-living characteristic property of the virus. Then they become active only when they are present inside the living cell. When they are present outside the living cell, they remain be present as in any of the non-living things, just like a chemical substances. This is considered to be as in one of the other non-living characteristic properties. So when they are present inside the host cell, they become active. When they are present outside the living cell, they remain be present just like a chemical substance, just like a non-living chemical substance, non-living chemical substance. So this is considered to be as in one of the non-living characteristic property of the virus. In the year 1935, it was the Stanley for the first time who was crystallized the tobacco mosaic virus. So we can crystallize not only the tobacco mosaic virus, but also a few of them. We can crystallize a few of the virus particles. So this is at another non-living property of the virus. We can crystallize them. We can crystallize them just like a non-living things, non-living chemical substance. So this is at another non-living characteristic property of the virus. Every virus particles shows a specific gravity. Specific gravity. Specific gravity. Specific gravity. So this is also at another non-living property of the virus. Then on the other hand, we can reconsider the other living properties of the virus. We know that every virus particle are very simple and very smallest organisms. They contain genetic material in them. They contain a genetic material. Means what? Presence of the DNA or RNA as a genetic material in all the viruses is considered to be as an one of the living property of the virus. One of the very important living property of the virus. Like all the living organisms, virus particles undergo mutation. Mutation can only occur in living things, living organisms, living animals, plants, any other microscopic or any other organisms. So like all the living organisms, virus can also undergo mutation. We can induce the mutation among the virus particles, or mutation can occur among the virus particles. This is considered to be as one of the living property of the viruses. Of course, virus particles they never undergo any fission process, just like that of the bacteria. Virus particles never undergo fission process. They never multiply ordinarily by a fission process. But the multiplication means what? They replicate inside the living host cell. Okay, so the replication uh, replication also considered as a reproduction or the multiplication of the virus particles. So they multiply only inside the living host cell, means what? They remain be be present as a active living organisms when they are present inside the living cell, inside the living the host cell. This is considered as another the living property of the virus. Then when they are present inside the living cell, they remain be present as a intracellular obligatory parasites. Intracellular obligatory parasites. So you know much more about the intracellular parasites, means what? Whenever they infect the plant cell, they or animal cell or any other cell, after their infection, they kill the cell or they destroy or destruct the cells or tissues or organs or sometimes the whole body, like that. So they are responsible for destruction, so destruction of the tissues or the organs or the organ system, or in case of the animals and in plants. So these are obligatory intracellular parasites. This is at another the living property of the virus. Virus particles are highly sensitive to the environmental the changes, just like high temperature or heat. Then virus particles also shows sensitivity towards ultraviolet light rays, then humidity, then drought, etc. So that is they make a response to the stimulus, external environmental stimulus. This is at another the important living property of the virus. Stimulus to response. I can say like this: stimulus to response. Every virus particles are highly specific to the external environmental conditions, like the heat, irradiation, or the any other environmental changes. Then yeah, another the living property of the virus is that every virus particles they have a particular the strains or races, just like any other microscopic organisms. They shows genetic races, even the strains, different the strains. Species is the smallest unit of the system of the classification. We also call it as a the taxon of the system of the classification. So the species further divided into a variety and variety, namely the strains, like that further. So in this way, the strains, different races also be present, just like all other living organisms in these virus particles. So this is also considered to be as an, that is different genetic races, and different the strains of viruses is also considered to be as an another living the properties of the viruses. This means that virus particles they do express non-living characters and as well as living characters, living properties and non-living properties. Some virologists they opine that, or they agree that so these are the virus particles are transitional forms. These are transitional forms transitional forms between non-living things and living things. They just act as a bridge between the non-living things and the living things. They just act as a bridge between the non-living things and the living things. We can't, or we never say the virus particles are complete the living organisms, and in the same time it is it is impossible for us, or it is we cannot say them, we cannot consider them as a living organisms or a non-living organisms. So these are some of the non-living and living the properties of the viruses. Then earlier I had uh, discussed with all of you about some of the morphological forms of the viruses. Earlier it was uh, classified the virus particles based on mode of infection, and then I had also discussed about some of the morphological forms of the viruses. Means what? Majority of the viruses usually occur in the nature in a helical fashion, helical symmetry, or a helical symmetry, or a rod shaped the virus particles. Example may be given here. It is a TMV plant virus exhibit a rod shape. So such viruses are termed or grouped under helical symmetry or helical morphological form of the viruses. Then yet another the morphological form, nothing but another group is there, that is polyhedral viruses. Polyhedral viruses are at another the morphological forms of the viruses. They exhibit such a structure. Take for example icosahedral symmetry of the viruses. Adenovirus, poliovirus exhibit such a polyhedral symmetry of the capsids. Then the spherical viruses. Then enveloped viruses. Enveloped the viruses. Okay. Number of the plant viruses exhibit a spherical symmetry of the arrangement of the capsid. Based on that, we can summarize, we can group them under a spherical symmetry of a spherical morphological form of the virus. Enveloped virus at another group. These virus do contain extra envelope outer to the capsid. So these are the different morphological forms of the viruses. As such, the classification of the virus is considered. I discussed earlier that based on the mode of infection, they were classified into a plant virus, animal virus, and then bacterial viruses. Plant virus infect only to the plants, bacterial virus infect only to the bacteria, animal virus infect only to the animals. So it was one of the oldest and earliest the system of the classification of the viruses. But nowadays virus particles are classified based on the fact that based on the nature of the genetic material which is present inside the central inner core of the virus particles. It may be the DNA or the RNA. Again, it is a double stranded or a single stranded DNA and then RNA. Based on that, virus particles are classified into a DNA virus, RNA virus, DNA double stranded virus, DNA single stranded virus, RNA single stranded virus, RNA double stranded virus. It was the three different the virologist, namely Lvov, and then the three independent the virologist, they have proposed the system of the classification of the viruses based on the genetic material. Their system of the classification of the virus is popular under the name LHT system of the classification. LHT system of the classification. So many of the virologists and all the other persons who are interested in the study of the viruses usually follow this system of the classification of the viruses. Then I shall stop here, and then I shall complete. I shall I shall continue with another aspect, another concept of the of the virus of the virus. Thank you.